Let's begin by taking a deep breath and walking through a door that most women are terrified to even look at. It is the door to the hidden world of male desire, specifically the psychology behind why men, even those who seem happy, successful, and married, sometimes seek out the company of high-end professionals. I know the title of this video might trigger a protective instinct in you. You might feel a flash of anger or perhaps a knot of anxiety in your stomach. That is completely natural. Society teaches us that the woman, or in this case, the paid companion, is the enemy. We are taught that she is the villain in the story of marriage. But today, I want to invite you to put down that defense mechanism just for a moment. We are not here to judge morality. We are not here to condone infidelity. We are here to do something much more powerful. We are here to study psychology. The uncomfortable truth is that high-end escorts, the ones who command thousands of dollars for a single evening, possess a very specific set of psychological skills. These women are not just selling their bodies. If it were only about anatomy, men would simply stay home or find cheaper options. No, these women are selling an experience. They are selling a feeling that many men feel starved of in their daily lives. There is a saying that success leaves clues. If a man is willing to risk his marriage, his reputation, and his fortune for a few hours with a stranger, we have to ask the difficult question, what is she giving him that he feels he cannot get at home? It is rarely just about sex. It is almost always about a psychological need that has gone unmet for years. When we are brave enough to look at this without judgment, we realize that these women have mastered the art of men's shadow needs. And the tragedy is that wives are often too blind to see these needs because they are too busy being good wives. Today, we are going to open your eyes, the wife burden vice, the companion freedom, to understand the secret. We first have to understand the role you play in your husband's life versus the role a companion plays. And this is where the blind spot usually exists. In a long-term marriage, the wife naturally becomes the manager of reality. You are the one who knows his cholesterol levels. You are the one who reminds him that the mortgage is due on the 1st. You are the one who knows that his mother is coming to visit next weekend and that the garage needs to be cleaned. You are his partner in the business of life. This is a beautiful, noble role. It is the foundation of a family, but psychologically it comes with a heavy price association. Over time, his brain begins to associate your face, your voice, and your presence with responsibility. When he sees you, he sees the dull list, he sees the expectation, he sees the history of every argument you've ever had. You represent the real world. Now, contrast this with the high-end companion. She has no past with him. She has no future with him. She doesn't care if he forgot to take out the trash. When he walks into her space, he steps into a vacuum of responsibility. She represents the escape. This is the blind spot. Wives often think men stray because they want a younger body or a prettier face. But psychological studies on infidelity show that men rarely leave for better looks. They leave for a better feeling. They are looking for a place where they don't have to be the responsible husband or the provider. They crave a space where they can put down the heavy backpack of their life and just be. The companion offers him freedom from his identity. The wife offers him the weight of his identity. It is not that he doesn't love the wife. It is that he is exhausted by the role he plays around her. The secret then is not to stop being his wife, but to learn how to occasionally step out of the manager role and step into the muse role. So where does this leave us? Does this mean you need to change who you are? Does it mean you have to act like someone you're not or compromise your dignity just to keep a man interested? Absolutely not. The goal of this video is not to turn you into an escort. You are a wife, a partner, perhaps a mother. You have a depth of connection with him that a paid companion will never ever touch. You have the history, the inside jokes, the shared grief, and the deep abiding love. That is your fortress. However, what if you could combine that deep emotional safety with the magnetic, addictive psychology of the muse? What if you could learn the exact psychological triggers that high-end companions use to make a man feel obsessed, heroic, and deeply seen, and apply them within the safety of your marriage? If you can do that, you become what I call the hybrid partner. You become the woman who creates a home for his heart and a playground for his desires. You become the only woman he ever needs, because you satisfy both his need for stability and his need for escape. In this video, we are going to treat this like a masterclass. We are going to peel back the layers of the male brain. I am going to teach you the concept of the fantasy container, the art of the zero reality rule, and the specific way to use your eyes and voice to bypass his logic and speak directly to his drive. This is going to require you to have an open mind. We are going to discuss things that might feel a little taboo. But if you stick with me until the end, you will walk away with a toolkit that 99% of wives are completely blind to. You won't just understand him better, you will hold the keys to his deepest engagement. Let's unlock the first secret. Let's talk about it. The core secret, the fantasy container, defining the container. Now that we understand why men seek escape, we need to define the actual mechanism that creates it. If you asked a high-end companion what she actually does for a living, she wouldn't say sex. If she is honest and if she is at the top of her field, she would say, I hold the container. This is the number one secret mentioned in the title of this video. But what exactly is a container? In psychological terms, a container is a sealed, energetic space where the rules of the outside world are temporarily suspended. Imagine drawing a circle around a bed. Inside that circle, time stops. Inside that circle, there are no mortgages, no deadlines, no aging parents, no political arguments, and no failures. It is a vacuum of pure presence. When a man pays for a high-end experience, he is essentially renting this bubble. From the moment he walks through the door, the companion is working strictly to maintain the integrity of this bubble. She ensures that nothing from his stressful reality pierces through. If his phone rings, she ignores it. If he looks tired, she doesn't ask about his boss, she asks about him. She creates a micro world where he is the center of the universe. In a marriage, this container is incredibly difficult to maintain because life is constantly poking holes in it. You are lying in bed intimate and close, and suddenly a thought pops into your head. Did we pay the electric bill? Or I think the dog needs to go out. The moment you vocalize that thought, you have broken the container. You have punctured the bubble of fantasy and let the cold air of reality rush in. For a woman, this might feel like effective multitasking. But for a man, specifically a man in a state of arousal or vulnerability, it is a psychological mood killer. It tells his brain, you are not safe to let go. You must remain alert. You must remain a manager. The secret of the high-end escort is that she acts as a guardian of the container. She fiercely protects the man's attention from drifting back to his burdens. She forces him through her focus and her behavior to remain in the present moment. And this ability to suspend reality is what becomes addictive. He craves her because she is the only place on earth where the world stops spinning. Why men are starved for this? Why is this container so vital to the male psyche? To understand this, we have to look at the modern male experience with a compassionate lens. Most men are raised with a performance burden. From a young age, they are taught that their value comes from what they provide, what they fix, and what they protect. They live their lives in a constant state of output. They are outputting energy at work, outputting decisions for the family, and outputting emotional stability for their children. They are constantly wearing a suit of armor that protects them from the world. This armor is heavy. It is exhausting, but most men feel they cannot take it off, not even at home. Even at home, they feel the pressure to be the good dad, the helpful husband, the fixer. They are constantly scanning for problems to solve. The container is the only place where the armor comes off. When a man enters a space where reality is suspended, he experiences a profound biological release. It is a shift from the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mode of work and responsibility, to the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode of pleasure and play. Men are starved for this because modern life offers almost no sanctuaries. Everywhere they go, they are needed. Someone always wants something from them. The high-end companion offers a radical reversal. She requires nothing from him but his pleasure. She doesn't need him to fix her sink. She doesn't need him to listen to her vent about a bad day. For that 1 hour, he is not a tool to be used. He is a man to be enjoyed. Wives often miss this because they view intimacy as a time to catch up or connect verbally about life. They think, we are finally alone, let's talk about our plans. But to a man starved for a break, this isn't connection, it's just more work. He doesn't want to plan, he wants to disappear. He is hungry for a space where he is not defined by his obligations. If you can be the woman who gives him permission to put down the armor, you become his sanctuary. The zero reality rule. So how do you actually build this container in a house full of noise, chores, and history? You do it by implementing what high-end companions call the zero reality rule. This is a mental and verbal discipline that you can start using tonight. The rule is simple for a specific window of time. Whether it is 20 minutes or 2 hours, reality is forbidden. Think of it like entering a movie theater. When the lights go down, you don't talk about your grocery list. You commit to the story on the screen. You need to treat your bedroom with the same reverence. To implement the zero reality rule, you must make a conscious decision that once the bedroom door closes, no topics from the outside world are allowed to enter. We do not talk about the kids. We do not talk about money. We do not talk about work schedules. We do not talk about family drama. If a thought about reality pops into your head, you must acknowledge it silently and then let it go. Do not speak it. If he brings up something stressful, perhaps he starts venting about his boss, you gently guide him back to the present. You might whisper, "Well, I can handle that tomorrow. Right now, you're here with me." This sounds simple, but it is a radical shift. You are training his brain to understand that when he is with you in this specific context, he is safe from the world. you are creating a Pavlovian response. Over time, just seeing you in that lighting or hearing that specific tone in your voice will trigger his brain to dump cortisol and release dopamine. The high-end escort knows that her value lies in her ability to maintain this illusion. She never breaks character. For the duration of the booking, the world outside does not exist. As a wife, you have the power to do this too. You just have to be disciplined enough to leave the manager outside the door and let the lover step inside. In the next chapter, we are going to talk about exactly how you look at him inside this container and why the way you use your eyes changes his entire biological response. The art of the gaze, seeing him as a stranger, familiarity, trap, we have established the container, we have locked the door on the outside world. Now, the two of you are alone in this zero reality space. What is the first thing that happens? You look at him, and this is where the second major blind spot occurs. In a long-term relationship, we suffer from a psychological phenomenon known as habituation. When you see something every single day, your brain stops processing the details to save energy. You stop seeing the painting on your wall, you just know it's there. Tragically, we do the same thing to our partners. When a wife looks at her husband of 10 or 20 years, she rarely sees the man standing in front of her right now. Instead, she looks through him. She sees a college of memories. She sees the father of her children. She sees the guy who forgot to fix the sink. She sees the partner who annoyed her at breakfast. Her gaze is soft, familiar, and comfortable. It says, I know you. While that is comforting for a Tuesday morning coffee, it is fatal for desire. A high-end companion does not have this blindness. When a man walks into her room, she looks at him with fresh, sharp eyes. She doesn't see a father or a husband. She sees a man. She sees a stranger. And because she looks at him with curiosity and alertness, he feels a sudden jolt of electricity. He feels seen. The familiarity trap is comfortable, but it makes a man feel invisible as a sexual being. He feels like a piece of furniture in your life, loved, but not noticed. To hack his psychology, you must learn to temporarily wipe the slate clean. You have to look at him not as the man you've known for a decade, as a man you have just met and are dangerously attracted to. You have to stop looking past him and start looking at him. The hungry eyes technique. So how do you physically do this? How do you fake that freshness when you know exactly how he looks when he wakes up with messy hair? You use a technique often taught in seduction arts called hungry eyes. High-end escorts are masters of the non-verbal signal. They know that 90% of communication is body language, and the eyes are the loudest speaker. When a wife looks at her husband, she usually makes eye contact with his eyes, smiles politely, and then looks away. The hungry eyes technique is different. It is a form of visual consumption. Next time you are in your container, I want you to try this. Don't just look at his eyes. Let your gaze travel. Look at his shoulders. Look at his hands. Look at his mouth. Scan his body slowly, as if you are physically inspecting him, as if you are a predator and he is the prey. When you scan a man's body with your eyes, you are objectifying him. In the political world, objectification is bad. In the bedroom, it is highly effective flattery. You are silently telling him, I am physically drawn to you. There is a subtle physical shift you can do here as well. Soften your focus and let your pupils dilate. Imagine you're trying to drink him in. Hold his gaze for 3 seconds longer than feels comfortable. In normal society, holding eye contact for too long is aggressive or intimate. By breaking that social rule, you create immediate tension. If you catch him looking at you, looking at him, don't look away immediately. Give a small, slow smile, a secret smile, and then slowly drag your eyes down his body. This behavior signals that you are not thinking about the grocery list. It signals that you are in a state of desire. It wakes him up. It forces him to be present in his body because he can feel your eyes on him, mirroring his ideal self. There is a deeper layer to this gaze, one that goes beyond simple physical attraction. It is about identity. Sociologists talk about the looking glass self, the idea that we become who the most important people in our lives think we are. If you look at your husband with eyes that say, you are tired, you are messy, you are disappointing, he will slump his shoulders. He will unconsciously act out that role. He will become the tired, disappointing man. But high-end companions play a different game. They sell a fantasy, and that fantasy begins with the reflection they offer back to the man. When an escort looks at a client, she is often projecting a specific movie onto him. She looks at him as if he is the most powerful, capable, and dominant man she has ever met. Even if he is just a regular accountant from the suburbs, her eyes tell him he is a king. And a fascinating thing happens. He straightens his posture. His voice drops an octave. He becomes more decisive. He steps into the role she is projecting for him. This is the ultimate secret of the gaze. Your eyes are a projector. If you want your husband to be more dominant, more passionate, or more energetic in the bedroom, you must first look at him as if he already is those things. You have to look at him with a mix of awe and respect. When he catches a glimpse of himself in the mirror of your eyes, He should see a version of himself that he likes. If you can master this, if you can look at him with hungry eyes that see him as a powerful, desirable stranger, you will see a transformation in his behavior almost instantly. He will want to live up to the reflection you are giving him. He will want to be the man you are seeing. Now that we have set the stage with the container and the gaze, we need to talk about what you say. In the next chapter, we're going to discuss the hero narrative and why his ego is starving for a very specific type of validation. The hero narrative validation addiction, the deficit of praise. We have created the space and we have mastered the gaze. Now, we must address the atmosphere of the room. And the quickest way to change the atmosphere is to understand the greatest starvation of the modern male soul. If you were to interview high-end companions and ask them, what do these successful, wealthy, powerful men actually talk about? You might be shocked by the answer. They don't talk about their Ferraris. They don't brag about their stock portfolios. Often, they talk about how unappreciated they feel. We live in a culture that tells men they must be stoic, unfeeling walls. They are expected to provide, protect, and perform without complaint. Because of this, most men live in what psychologists call a praise deficit. Think about the last time a man in your life received a genuine, non-transactional compliment. Not thanks for taking out the trash, but a genuine observation of his value as a man. It likely happened years ago. High-end companions understand that their job description is actually 20% physical intimacy and 80% ego validation. They know that men are validation addicts who are forced to go cold turkey by society. When a man pays for a companion, he is often paying for a mirror that reflects his value back to him. He wants to feel like a hero. He wants to feel like a king. He wants to feel like he matters, not just as a paycheck, but as a force of nature. Wives often fall into the trap of thinking, knows I love him. He knows I think he's great. I married him, didn't I? But implicit knowledge is not enough. The male ego is like a fire. If you stop feeding it wood, it goes cold. Blind spot for many wives is assuming that their husband is confident enough that he doesn't need reassurance. The truth is, the more successful a man is, the more isolated he often feels, and the more desperate he is for a woman to look at him and verbally confirm his strength. If you can become the source of this validation, if you can be the one who feeds that hunger, you create an addiction. He will not be able to stay away from you because you are the only water in his emotional desert. Specific vez, generic praise. Now, simply saying you're great isn't enough. High-end companions use a very specific framework for praise that differs wildly from how a wife typically speaks. In a marriage, praise is usually domestic. It sounds like good job on the lawn, or thanks for picking up the kids, or you look nice in that shirt. While these are polite, they do not trigger desire. They trigger a sense of duty. They remind him that he is a good employee of the household. To hack the hero narrative, you must shift from domestic praise to erotic praise. Erotic praise is not about what he does for the house. It is about who he is and the effect he has on you. The distinction is crucial. Generic, domestic. You are so strong. Specific, erotic. I love watching your muscles move when you lift that. It makes me feel weak. Do you see the difference? The first one is a nice observation. The second one is a story where he is the powerful protagonist and you are the woman responding to his power. High-end companions are masters of specific praise. They don't just say, that feels good. They describe why it feels good. They might say, your hands are so rough and heavy, it makes me feel so small and safe. They focus on his masculinity in contrast to their femininity. To implement this, you need to start verbalizing the things you usually keep in your head. When he hugs you from behind, instead of just leaning back, whisper, I love how broad your chest feels against my back. When he makes a decision for the family, instead of just agreeing, say, I love when you take charge like that. It's so sexy. You are essentially providing a running commentary on his masculinity. You are validating his gender role. Most men are terrified that they are failing at being men. When you offer specific evidence that he is succeeding, that his strength, his voice, his touch are having a visceral impact on you, you are giving him a drug that is more potent than anything else on the market. You are confirming his identity. The damsel dynamic, this brings us to the third component of the hero narrative, and perhaps the most controversial for modern women, the damsel dynamic. Please understand, I am not suggesting you become a helpless 1950s housewife who cannot open a checking account. In the real world, you are his equal part. You are capable, strong, and independent. But in the container of the bedroom, equality is often the enemy of polarity. Desire requires a gap. It requires a positive and a negative charge. If you are both in charge, you are two positive magnets repelling each other. High-end companions understand that to make a man feel like a hero, There must be someone who needs saving, or at least someone who needs leading. This is what I call micro-submission. It is the conscious, strategic choice to surrender control in small ways to allow him to step into his dominance. Men have a biological drive known as the competence instinct. They want to feel useful. They want to feel that their strength has a purpose. When a companion asks a man to open a bottle of wine, she isn't doing it because she is weak. She is doing it to give him a small win. She watches him do it and signals, "My hero." In the bedroom, you can trigger this by explicitly verbalizing your surrender. Phrases like, "I am all yours," or "I want you to take over," are incredibly powerful. They signal to him that he has permission to drive. Many wives are so used to managing the household that they manage his own themselves in bed. They give instructions, "Move here, do this, not that." This kills the hero narrative. It makes him feel like an intern being trained. Instead, try leaning into the damsel role. Let him see you lose control. Let him see you overwhelmed by his touch. When he feels that he is the one causing you to lose your composure, he feels like a conqueror. The damsel isn't about weakness, it is about offering him the gift of his own competence. You are creating a space where his strength is celebrated, required, and revered. That is a feeling he will never want to leave. The sanctuary of no judgment, the fear of being too much. We have built the container, we have changed the way we look at him, and we have fed his need to be a hero. Now, we must venture into the darkest, most misunderstood corner of male psychology. This is the realm of the shadow self. Every human being has a shadow, the part of our psyche where we keep our forbidden thoughts, our aggressive impulses, and our socially unacceptable desires. For men specifically, the shadow often contains sexual desires that feel rough, primal, or dirty. Here is the tragedy of modern marriage. The more a man respects you, the more he often hides this side from you. This is a phenomenon known as the Madonna whore complex, but we can strip away the academic label and look at the feeling. He looks at you and sees the mother of his children. He sees the woman he promised to honor and cherish. He sees a good woman because he places you on this pedestal of purity. He is terrified of bringing his dirt into your world. He fears that if he showed you what he really wants, if he showed you the raw, aggressive, or selfish nature of his deepest fantasies, you would be disgusted. You would look at him differently. You would think he is a monster or a pervert or simply too much. So what does he do? He splits himself in two. He becomes the good husband, at home, gentle, considerate, vanilla, and he suppresses the shadow. But the shadow does not go away. It grows in the dark. This is the primary reason men seek out high-end companions. It is not because they stopped loving their wives. It is because they need a place to exhale their shadow without fear of judgment. An escort expects the shadow, she welcomes it. She doesn't flinch when he asks for something strange. She provides a judgment-free zone where he can be as bad as he wants, knowing that once the hour is up, he can put his suit back on and return to being a good man. The secret to becoming the ultimate partner is to show him that he doesn't need to leave the house to be bad. You must convince him that your love is strong enough to handle his shadow. You must show him that you are not just a Madonna on a pedestal, but a woman grounded enough to play in the dark with him. Becoming the confidante, understanding the shadow is one thing. Getting him to reveal it is another. Most men have spent decades building walls around their fantasies. They are convinced that if they tell you the truth, you will reject them. So how do you bridge this gap? You cannot simply ask, "What are your fantasies?" Over dinner, if you ask a direct question, he will give you a safe answer. He will say, "I just want to be with you." Honey, he is protecting himself. To become his confidante, you must use a psychological technique called incremental disclosure. You have to go first. Vulnerability triggers vulnerability. If you want him to lower his walls, you must lower yours first. You can start small. Perhaps during a quiet moment in the dark, you whisper a fantasy of your own, something slightly edgier than your normal routine. Watch his reaction. When you share something vulnerable, you are signaling, "I am not perfect. I have a shadow too." But the most critical moment is your reaction when he finally tests the waters. Eventually, he will drop a hint. He might make a joke about something kinky. He might touch you a little rougher than usual. He might mention a scene from a movie. This is the flinch test. If you react with shock, judgment, or laughter, if you say, "Ew, really?" or "That's weird," the door will slam shut and it may never open again. He will feel immense shame and retreat back to safety. The high-end companion never flinches. She meets every suggestion with curiosity or enthusiasm. Even if it is something she cannot do, she validates desire. She says, "Tell me more about that," or "I love that you want that." To be his confidante, you must replace judgment with curiosity. When he hints at something, lean in. Ask him, "What about that turns you on?" with a warm, inviting tone. You don't have to agree to do everything he wants. That is a boundary conversation for later. But you must agree to hear everything he wants. You must create a safe harbor where his words can land softly. When he feels that his darkness does not scare you, the level of trust and intimacy will skyrocket to heights you haven't seen since the honeymoon phase. Separating fantasy from reality, there is a final hurdle that keeps many wives from embracing this role, and it is a moral one. Women often worry that if a man wants to do something degrading or aggressive in the bedroom, it means he doesn't respect them in real life. They fear that letting the shadow out will poison the marriage. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of male sexuality. High-end escorts and the men who visit them understand a concept called the separation of church and state. In this context, it means the separation of fantasy and reality. Just because a man wants to be dominant, rough, or controlling in the container of the bedroom does not mean he wants to be a tyrant in the living room. In fact, psychology often shows the opposite. Men who are highly responsible, gentle, egalitarian in their daily lives often crave the opposite dynamic in bed as a form of release. It is a form of play. It is a theatrical performance. Think of it like an actor playing a villain in a movie. When the director yells, "Cut," the actor goes home and kisses his kids. He isn't actually evil. He was just exploring that energy for a scene. The escort knows that the man choking her slightly or calling her names in the heat of passion isn't attacking her dignity. He is role-playing a dynamic of power. He is using the zero reality space to experience a sensation. She knows that the moment the transaction is over, he will likely be incredibly polite and grateful. As a wife, you must learn to compartmentalize. You must realize that bedroom him and husband him are allowed to be two different characters. You can allow him to treat you like an object of desire for 30 minutes, knowing fully well that he respects you as his equal partner the other 23 hours and 30 minutes of the day. When you stop taking his fantasies personally, when you stop analyzing them for moral meaning and start seeing them as just play, you liberate yourself. You stop being the wife who worries and become the lover who plays. And that freedom is exactly what he is paying the escort for. He is paying for a woman who doesn't overthink it. Be the woman who doesn't overthink it, and you become the only woman he needs. Sensory immersion, setting the stage. The transition ritual, we have spoken heavily about psychology, about gaze, praise, and the shadow. Now, we must move from the internal to the external. We must talk about the environment. One of the biggest mistakes couples make in long-term relationships is attempting the cold start. You spend the evening cleaning up dinner, folding laundry, or answering emails. Then you walk into the bedroom, turn off the big light, and expect to immediately switch into lover mode. The brain does not work this way. You cannot go from 60 miles per hour in domestic traffic to a dead stop of intimacy without whiplash. The transition feels jarring. It feels forced. High-end escorts understand that the experience begins long before the man touches them. It begins the moment he walks through the door. And critical to this experience is the transition ritual. A professional companion never lets a client walk into a room that looks like real life. Before he arrives, she stages the scene. She dims the lights. She adjusts the temperature. She ensures the room feels like a different world than the street outside. This is not just interior design. It is psychological priming. She is creating an airlock between his stress and his pleasure. As a wife, you need to create your own transition ritual. You need a buffer zone. This doesn't mean you need to renovate your bedroom. It means you need a 15-minute window where you change the frequency of the house. Maybe it's a specific playlist you turn on only for intimacy. Maybe it's the act of lighting 2 specific candles on the nightstand. Maybe it's simply closing the blackout curtains and turning on a warm lamp instead of the harsh overhead light. When you do this consistently, you create a trigger. You are telling both his brain and your own brain the workday is done. The parent role is paused. We are entering the container. This ritual helps you shed the stress of the day so that when you finally touch him, you aren't touching him with mom energy. You are touching him with the focused, calm energy of a woman who is ready to receive him. Visual stimuli and lingerie psychology. Now let's address the visual aspect, and specifically the topic that makes many women roll their eyes. Lingerie. I hear you. You might be thinking, I'm not 20 anymore, or I don't look like a Victoria's Secret model, or hey, he's just going to take it off anyway. What's the point? This is a fundamental misunderstanding of male visual psychology. High-end escorts know that lingerie is not about how perfect your body is. It is about the effort of the packaging. Think about receiving a gift. If someone hands you a diamond necklace in a brown paper grocery bag, it feels cheap. It feels like an afterthought. But if they hand you a costume jewelry necklace in a velvet box with a silk ribbon, it feels precious. It feels significant. To a man, your body is the gift. The lingerie is the velvet box. When you wear sweatpants and an old t-shirt to bed, which is completely fine for normal nights, you are signaling comfort. You are signaling friend. But on the nights when you want to trigger the escort effect, you need to signal occasion. When a man sees you in lace silk or something sheer, his brain registers a pattern break. He sees a visual contrast to the woman he saw pouring coffee this morning. He sees effort. And to a man, That visual effort translates directly. Toe, she thinks I am worth this. It validates his ego. It tells him, I dressed up for you. You do not need to be a size 2. You do not need to be flawless. In fact, many high-end companions are Olvia and have real bodies, but they treat their bodies like art. They frame their curves in beautiful fabrics. They present themselves with pride. If you can get past your own insecurity and realize that he isn't critiquing your stretch marks, he is celebrating the fact that his wife looks like a femme fatale tonight, you unlock a powerful visual trigger. You turn yourself from a partner into a prize. The power of scent and sound. Finally, we must activate the most primal sense of all, smell. The olfactory bulb in the brain is directly wired to the amygdala and the hippocampus, the centers for emotion and memory. This is why the smell of cookies reminds you of your grandmother, or the smell of chlorine reminds you of summer. Scent bypasses logic. High-end companions often have a signature scent. It is a perfume they wear only when they are working. When a client smells that specific blend of vanilla, jasmine, or musk, his brain instantly floods with the memories of pleasure. It acts as a Pavlovian bell. In a marriage, the scent of the wife is often confused with the scent of the house, cleaning products, dinner, laundry, detergent, or soap. While these are clean smells, they are not erotic smells. They are domestic smells. To deepen the immersion, you should have a bedroom scent. This could be a specific perfume that you never wear to work or to the grocery store. It is reserved exclusively for the container. Apply it to your pulse points, your neck, your wrists, the back of your knees, right before you initiate the transition ritual. When he hugs you, he shouldn't smell the day, he should smell you. Combine this with sound. Silence can sometimes be awkward, allowing the mind to wander to the creak of the floorboards or the hum of the refrigerator. A low, bass, heavy playlist creates a sonic curtain that blocks out the rest of the house. When you layer these elements, the dim lighting, the visual of the lingerie, the specific erotic scent, and the mood music, you are building a 4D experience. You are no longer just in your bedroom. You have successfully transported him to a sanctuary where his only focus is you. You have set the stage. Now you are ready to play the pattern break, killing routine, the death of predictability. We have set the stage, we look the part, and the room smells divine. But there is one invisible killer that can destroy all of this effort in seconds. It is the silent enemy of every long-term marriage predictability. Neuroscience tells us that the chemical of desire is dopamine. Dopamine is not actually the molecule of pleasure. It is the molecule of anticipation. It is the brain asking, what happens next? When the brain knows exactly what happens next, with 100% certainty, dopamine production drops to near zero. This is the Tuesday night syndrome. You know the routine. You brush your teeth. You get into bed. You turn off the lights. He touches you in the exact same spot. You respond in the exact same way. It is efficient. It is comfortable. It is safe. And it is completely unexciting. The high-end escort offers the opposite of safety. She offers uncertainty. When a man meets a companion, he is on high alert. He doesn't know what she will do next. He doesn't know if she will be aggressive or shy. He doesn't know what the night holds. This uncertainty keeps his brain in a state of hyperarousal. He is engaged because he has to be. In a marriage, you have become the known quantity. He knows your body map better than his own commute. While that knowledge is beautiful for intimacy, it is fatal for erotica. If you want to recreate that high-end rush, you must consciously become an agent of chaos. You have to break the pattern. If you usually wait for him to initiate, you must initiate. If you are usually silent, you must make noise. If you usually start in the bedroom, start in the kitchen. You need to create a pattern break, a moment where his brain goes, wait, this isn't the script, something is different. That moment of confusion is where the spark lives. It forces him to look at you with fresh eyes, wondering what other surprises you have hiding up your sleeve. You must be willing to sacrifice comfort for the sake of excitement, the element of surprise. So how do you practically introduce chaos without it feeling forced or awkward? You use the element of surprise. High-end dates often rely on a carefully curated sense of spontaneity. Even if the evening is planned down to the minute, it feels spontaneous to the man. You can replicate this dynamic by changing the when and the where. Let's talk about the when. Most married sex happens at the end of the day when both partners are exhausted, full of dinner, and mentally drained. This is the worst possible time for high-energy connection. Try initiating a pattern break in the morning, or perhaps more daringly, in the middle of the afternoon on a weekend. Catch him when he is doing something mundane, like watching football or folding laundry. A touch or a whisper when he is mentally disengaged creates a massive spike in adrenaline. Then there is the digital surprise. Escorts are masters of the tease. They build tension before the meeting even starts. You can do this with a text message. In the middle of his workday, send him a text. Not about the kids, not about groceries. Send him a text that says, I was just thinking about what I want to do to you later. Imagine him reading that in a boring meeting. His heart rate will jump. You have just planted a virus in his brain, a thought loop that will play on repeat until he gets home. You have turned a regular Tuesday into an event. Another powerful tactic is the hidden layer. Wear the high-end lingerie we talked about in the previous chapter, but wear it under your normal frumpy house clothes or your stiff work suit. Go through dinner acting completely normal. Then at the right moment, reveal it. The contrast between domestic wife on the outside and erotic mistress on the inside is a psychological thrill for him. It tells him that you are walking around with a secret, and he is the only one who gets to unwrap it. Role play as a reset button. Finally, we arrive at the ultimate pattern break role play. Now, before you cringe, I am not talking about dressing up in cheap costumes or acting out a bad script. I am talking about persona play. This is a tool escorts use constantly to keep things fresh. They adapt their energy to match the man's mood. Sometimes they're innocent students, sometimes the dominant queen. In a marriage, we get locked into our roles. You are the wife. He is. These labels come with heavy expectations. Roleplay allows you to reset button and step out of those labels for an hour. It can be as simple as strangers at a bar, meet him at a hotel bar, or even just set up 2 chairs in your living room with drinks. Pretend you don't know each other. Introduce yourself with a fake name. Why does this work? Because it removes the history. If you are Alice from the bar, you aren't mad about the dishes he didn't wash. You aren't worried about his mother. You are just a woman intrigued by a handsome man. It frees him to be charming again rather than just tired. It frees you to be flirtatious rather than just practical. It gives you permission to act in ways the wife wouldn't act. Maybe Alice is bolder. Maybe she is more aggressive. It creates a psychological safety net. If you try something and it feels silly, you can just laugh and say, well, that's just Alice. By adopting a persona, you allow yourselves to meet as strangers again. And remember, men don't desire what they already have. They desire what they have to chase. Roleplay lets him chase you all over again, even after 20 years of marriage. Verbal seduction, the sound of desire. Moan as communication. We have engaged the eyes, the nose, and the mind. Now we must engage his ears. We are entering the realm of verbal seduction. For many women, this is the most intimidating part of the masterclass. You might be naturally quiet. You might feel self-conscious making noise, fearing that it sounds fake or performative, like bad acting in a movie. So you default to silence. I want to tell you a harsh truth about the male brain. To a man, silence is not peaceful. Silence is ambiguous. When you are silent during intimacy, his brain starts to spin. He isn't thinking, whoa, she is enjoying this deeply. He is thinking, is she bored? Is she thinking about the laundry? Am I doing this wrong? Is she just waiting for me to finish? Silence creates a vacuum, and insecurity fills that vacuum. High-end escorts understand that sound is not just an expression of pleasure. It is a GPS system for the man. They use their voice to guide him. A soft moan, a sharp intake of breath, or a sigh is immediate biological feedback. It tells him, yes, go left, or stay there, or that is working. You must reframe your vocalization. It is not a performance for an audience. It is communication for your partner. If you are shy, start small. You don't need to scream. Focus on the breath. When he touches you in a way that feels good, let the breath leave your body audibly. Let him hear the change in your rhythm. Think of his ego like a car engine. Your sounds are the fuel. When he hears a reaction from you, it triggers a rush of testosterone. It confirms his competence. It tells him that he is having a physical impact on your reality. If you lay there in silence, you are starving him of the very proof he needs to feel like a lover. By breaking the silence, you break his insecurity. You give him the confidence to be more adventurous because he knows without a doubt that he is pleasing you. Dirty talk for nice girls. Now, let's tackle the phrase that makes most nice girls cringe: dirty talk. The problem with this term is that it implies you have to say something dirty, vulgar, or degrading. You imagine you have to use words that you would never say in real life, and the thought feels unnatural and embarrassing. So let's throw that term away. We are not going to call it a dirty talk. We are going to call it descriptive praise. High-end companions don't necessarily use vulgar language unless the client requests it. What they do use is descriptive language. They narrate the experience. This keeps the man's mind tethered to the present moment. If you don't know what to say, use this simple formula: sensation to emotion. Sensation, describe what is happening physically. Emotion, describe how it makes you feel. Instead of trying to come up with a script, just speak the truth of the moment. Instead of silence, say, your skin feels so hot. Instead of overthinking, whisper, I love the way you're looking at me right now. Instead of worry and admit, you are making me feel so weak. These aren't dirty words. They are honest words. But to a man, they are incredibly erotic. Why? Because men are visual and logical. They can see what they are doing, but they cannot feel what you are feeling. They are blind to your internal experience. When you use words to describe your internal state, you are opening a window for him. You are letting him inside your head. You are saying, look at the effect you are having on me. This is also the perfect time to use the specific praise we talked about in chapter 4. Tell him he feels big. Tell him he feels strong. Tell him he feels heavy. These words act as anchors. They stop his mind from wandering to work or stress and lock him into the visceral reality of your connection. You don't have to be a porn star. You just have to be a reporter of your own pleasure. The post-intimacy whisper. Finally, we arrive at the most critical and most neglected window of verbal seduction, the aftermath. In a typical marriage, once the physical act is over, the connection often breaks immediately. One person gets up to use the bathroom, the other checks their phone. The container dissolves instantly. This is a missed opportunity. Psychologically, this moment is known as the refractory period for him, but emotionally it is the oxytocin window for both of you. His defenses are down. He is chemically bonded to you. High-end companions are trained to utilize this moment to ensure repeat business. They don't just check their watch and leave. They engage in aftercare. They whisper into his ear while his heart rate is still slowing down. This is where you anchor the memory. Don't just roll over. Stay in his space for 60 seconds. Lean close to his ear and whisper a closing statement. Whoa, I really needed that. You completely wrecked me. I'm going to sleep so good tonight because of you. Why is this so powerful? Because of the peak end rule. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Barbara Fredrickson discovered that human beings judge an experience largely based on how it felt at its peak and at its end. If the end of your intimacy is you immediately talking about the kids' soccer schedule, the entire experience is overwritten with domestic duty. But if the end is a whisper that confirms he is a sexual god who just satisfied his wife deeply, that is the memory he takes into sleep. That is the memory he wakes up with. By using the post-intimacy whisper, you seal the deal. You sign your name on the masterpiece you just created. You ensure that the last thing he hears isn't the hum of the air conditioner, but the sound of his own success. The aftercare and the exit strategy leaving him wanting more. We're approaching the end of the masterclass, but we are not done yet. In fact, this specific phase is where most wives accidentally undo all their hard work. We need to talk about the exit strategy. Think about how a great movie ends. It rarely explains everything. It rarely drags on until the audience is bored. A great movie ends on a high note, a revelation, a kiss, a victory, and then the screen cuts to black. It leaves you sitting in the dark, heart pounding, thinking, I can't wait for the sequel. This is the psychological principle of the cliffhanger. In a typical marriage scenario, the end of intimacy is often a slow fizzle. You might both drift off to sleep. Or even worse, the manager instantly returns. You turn on the harsh bathroom light. You ask if he remembered to lock the back door. You mention that the dog needs to be fed in the morning. By doing this, you are letting the energy crash. You are taking a gourmet meal and serving it on a paper plate. High-end companions are masters of the exit strategy. They know that desire pleasure for absence. If you give a man too much presence, if you linger until the conversation gets boring or awkward, you kill the desire, you satiate him too much. To keep a man obsessed, you must leave him slightly hungry. This applies even if you sleep in the same bed. The exit isn't leaving the house. It is leaving the container. When the intimate session is over, don't immediately rush to clean up or chatter about life. Instead, create a deliberate pause. Kiss him one last time, slowly, intentionally, and then pull away before he is ready for you to leave. Give him a small smile that says, that was amazing, and then turn away to go to the bathroom or settle into your pillow. You are creating a micro boundary. You are stepping out of the spotlight while the applause is still ringing. This psychological pullback triggers his chase instinct. He will reach for you. He will try to pull you back in. That is exactly where you want him. You want him falling asleep, reaching for you, wishing he had just 5 more minutes of that version of you. That sense of unfinished business is what ensures he will be thinking about it and you all day tomorrow. The memory imprint, now that we have executed the exit, we have one final psychological tool to deploy. This is the mechanism that locks the experience into his long-term memory. We call this the memory imprint. The human brain is flawed. It does not record experiences like a video camera. It takes snapshots. And according to Nobel Prize winning psychology, the brain judges an entire experience based on only 2 moments, the peak and the end. This means that you can have 45 minutes of incredible passionate connection, but if the last 5 minutes are awkward, cold, or stressful, his brain will file the entire encounter under unpleasant. Conversely, if the ending is warm, validating, and pleasurable, his brain files the encounter under addictive. Even if the rest of it was average, high-end companions utilize this ruthlessly. They ensure that the final interaction, the goodbye, the last touch, the final look is flawless. They want that to be the thumbnail image in his mind when he thinks of them. As a wife, you have a massive advantage here. You don't have to say goodbye at a hotel door. You get to imprint him as he drifts into the subconscious state of sleep. Here is how you do it, the physical anchor. right before he falls asleep. When he is in that twilight state between waking and dreaming, touch him. Place your hand firmly on his chest or hold his hand tightly. Squeeze it once. This is a non-verbal anchor. While you are touching him, whisper one positive reinforcement. You are such a good man. I love being yours. Thank you. That's it. Don't ask a question. Don't start a conversation. Just deposit that one sentence of pure validation into his brain while he is vulnerable. Because his conscious defenses are down, this message goes straight to his subconscious. It associates your touch and your voice with the feeling of safety and satisfaction. You are literally programming his brain to associate peace with you. When he wakes up the next morning, he may not consciously remember exactly what you said, but he will wake up with a lingering feeling of deep warmth and connection toward you. He will feel full. By controlling the memory imprint, you ensure that the container doesn't just disappear when the sun comes up. It lives on in his mind, fueling his desire until the next time you decide to open the door. The ultimate integration, the wife-mistress hybrid. You have the advantage. We have reached the final chapter. We have dissected the psychology of the container, the power of the gaze, and the necessity of the shadow. And right now, you might be feeling a mix of emotions. You might feel inspired, but you might also feel a lingering sense of intimidation. You might be thinking, can I really do this? I'm not a professional. I'm just his wife. I want you to listen to me very closely because this is the most important thing I will say in this entire video. You have the advantage. The high-end companion, for all her skills, has a fatal flaw in her model. She is a rental. She has the technique, but she does not have the soul of the relationship. She doesn't know what his face looks like when he finds out his father is sick. She doesn't know the story behind the scar on his knee. She doesn't share his DNA in the form of children. Her connection, no matter how intense, is ultimately hollow because it lacks history. You, on the other hand, have the history. You have the trust. You have the deep foundational love that has survived storms. You are his safe harbor. The only reason men stray, the only reason they look for the escort experience is because they feel they have to choose between safety and adventure. They think they can't have both in the same woman. But now you have the keys to the kingdom when you take the deep emotional safety of a wife and you sprinkle in the psychological skills of a high-end companion, the ability to suspend reality, the ability to validate his ego, ability to be his partner in crime. You become something rare. You become the hybrid partner. You become the woman who can hold his hand at a funeral and the woman who can rock his world in a hotel room. You become the woman who manages the household and the woman who helps him escape it. When you integrate these two sides of yourself, you become irreplaceable. An escort can be replaced by another escort. A wife can be replaced by another wife. But a hybrid, a woman who embodies both Madonna and the war, that woman is a unicorn. He will never leave her because he knows he will never find that combination anywhere else. You are not competing with the fantasy. You are absorbing it, the challenge. So here is my challenge to you. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. You have just consumed a masterclass in male psychology, but if you turn off this video and go back to doing exactly what you did yesterday, nothing will change. The blind spot will remain. I don't want you to try to do everything we talked about tonight. That is too much pressure. I want you to pick one secret. Maybe tonight you just implement the zero reality rule. Maybe you decide that for 30 minutes you will banish all talk of chores and bills. Maybe tomorrow morning you try the hungry eyes technique while he is drinking his coffee. Look at him like a stranger. Maybe this weekend you send the risky text message. Choose one small crack in the routine and pry it open. You might feel awkward at first. You might feel like you are acting. That is okay. Fake it until you feel it. The moment you see his reaction, the moment you see his eyes light up, his posture change, or his attention lock onto you, the awkwardness will vanish. You will realize that you are not acting. You are simply accessing a part of yourself that has been dormant. You have the power to transform your marriage. You don't need a therapist. You don't need a new body, and you don't need to wait for him to change. You are the architect of the container. If you are ready to stop being the manager and start being the muse, then I invite you to take that first step tonight. Thank you for trusting me with your time and your attention. If this video opened your eyes, if it gave you a language for feelings you've always had, please subscribe to the channel. We are building a community of women who are unafraid to understand the truth about desire. Leave a comment below and tell me which of the 10 secrets are you going to try first. I read every single story. You have the history. Now go get the adventure, and I'll see you in the next video.